AI tank. This tank has no driver, no gunner, no one inside at all. So how does it fight? It's an experimental autonomous combat vehicle controlled entirely by artificial intelligence. Instead of a crew, it relies on radar, thermal cameras, and glowing optical sensors to scan the battlefield, identify targets, and move on its own. Machines like the American robotic combat vehicles weigh around 12 tons, far lighter than a normal tank, and can be armed with autocannons, machine guns, or anti-tank missiles. Because there's no crew to protect, engineers can strip away heavy armor and make them fast, cheap, and expendable. Some are designed to scout ahead, others to swarm in groups controlled by a single operator miles away. But it raises a terrifying question. Should a machine decide when to pull the trigger? Armies everywhere are pouring billions into robotic tanks right now. The crewless tank isn't science fiction anymore. It's already rolling onto the battlefield.
UFO tank. Look at this shape. A flat, saucer-like hole that looks like it came from another planet. But it was built for one very real nightmare: nuclear war. This is the Soviet Object 279, designed in 1959. It weighed a massive 60 tons, protected by armor up to 319 millimeters thick, enough to shrug off almost any shell of its era. Its curved body was shaped to stop an atomic shockwave from flipping it over. It carried a powerful 130-millimeter gun and a crew of 4. And instead of 2 tracks, it rode on 4, spreading its enormous weight so it wouldn't sink into mud or snow. But all that armor made it heavy, slow, and a nightmare to steer, with a top speed of just 55 kilometers per hour. Only a few prototypes were ever built before the project was canceled. Today, the Object 279 sits in a museum, a tank designed to survive the end of the world.
Wheel tank. Those wheels are 9 meters tall, and this might be the most ambitious tank failure in history. Meet the Tsar Tank, built in Russia in 1915. This monster stretched 12 meters wide, stood 9 meters high, and weighed a staggering 60 tons. Instead of tracks, its designer gave it 2 gigantic spoked wheels, each driven by a captured 250 horsepower engine, believing they could roll over any trench or wall. It was meant to bristle with cannons and machine guns and multiple turrets. On paper, it looked unstoppable, a rolling fortress towering over the battlefield. But there was one fatal flaw. The 2 huge front wheels were powerful, but the small rear wheel was not. On its very first test, that back wheel sank into the soft ground and the whole machine got stuck. This giant never moved again. It rusted in a forest for years before being scrapped, brought down not by an enemy, but by a patch of mud.
Ball tank.
Yes, a tank shaped like a ball, and it might be the biggest mystery in military history. This is the Kugelpanzer, which literally means ball tank. It weighs only about 1.8 tons, with armor just 5 millimeters thick, powered by a tiny single-cylinder engine. It rolls forward on one giant sphere, steering with a small arm at the back, with just a narrow slit to see through. Soviet forces captured it at the end of the Second World War and hauled it home as a prize. But here's the strange part. There are no clear records of who built it or what it was for. Some think it was a scout vehicle, others say it laid cable or observed enemy lines. With paper-thin armor and a weak engine, it was never a serious weapon. Only one is known to exist, sitting in a Russian museum. A one-of-a-kind machine that still refuses to give up its secrets.
Stealth tank. This one looks like it drove straight out of a video game, and it might be the future of every tank on Earth. Those sharp, angular panels and honeycomb surface aren't just for style. They're designed to scatter radar waves and hide the tank's heat signature, making it incredibly hard to detect. This is a next-generation stealth concept revealed by South Korea's Hyundai Rotem. It's built around a fully unmanned turret, so the 3-man crew sits protected deep inside the hull. Plans call for a 130mm smoothbore gun, an active protection system to shoot down incoming missiles, AI-assisted targeting, and even small drones and robotic vehicles working alongside it. Lighter and smarter than today's tanks, it's designed for a battlefield full of drones and sensors.
where the best armor isn't thicker steel. It's simply never being seen. This is where armored warfare is heading next. Flying tank. A tank with wings? It sounds like a joke, but the Soviet Union actually built one and got it into the air. This is the Antonov A-40, created in 1942. Engineers take a light T-60 tank, weighing about 5.8 tons, and bolt it on a giant biplane glider frame with a wingspan of 18 meters, then towed it into the sky behind a heavy bomber. The plan was for it to silently glide down behind enemy lines, drop its wings, and drive straight into battle to support paratroopers. Incredibly, it actually flew, at least once. But the tank was so heavy that the bomber's engines overheated, straining just to keep it airborne. To fly at all, engineers had to strip out the fuel, ammunition, and even the weapons, leaving it useless the moment it landed. The project was quietly canceled. But for one brief moment, a tank really did soar through the sky. Drone tank. What if a tank could launch its own air force? That's exactly what this machine does. This is the KF51 Panther, a modern main battle tank built in Germany, weighing around 59 tons. Its main weapon is a massive 130mm smoothbore cannon, far more powerful than the 120mm guns on most Western tanks, fed by an autoloader that cuts the crew to just 3. But its real trick is on top. The Panther can carry and launch loitering drones directly from the vehicle, letting the crew scout over hills and strike targets far beyond what they can see. It's also packed with an active protection system and 360-degree sensors to survive the drones hunting it. In a world where cheap drones are destroying million-dollar tanks, the Panther fights fire with fire. This is the tank built for the drone age. Mantis tank. This bizarre machine is the British praying mantis, built in the 1930s. It was small and light, crewed by just 2 men who lay flat on their stomachs inside. Its whole body could rise up on a hinged arm, lifting its twin machine guns high into the air to fire over walls, hedges, and trenches, while the tank itself stayed hidden behind cover. In theory, it was brilliant. Pop up, fire, and drop back down before the enemy could respond. In practice, it was cramped, unstable, and the violent swaying made the crew horribly sick. The army tested it, decided it was more of a nightmare than a weapon, and quietly abandoned the project. But as a piece of pure engineering imagination, the praying mantis remains unforgettable. Armata tank. This is what Russia calls the future of its army, and it broke one of the oldest rules of tank design. Meet the T-14 Armata. It weighs around 55 tons, and for the first time in a century, its turret is completely unmanned. All 3 crew members sit together in an armored capsule in the hull, far from the ammunition. So if the turret is hit, they have a far better chance of surviving. It's armed with a 125mm smoothbore gun with an autoloader, capable of firing guided missiles, and protected by the Afghanet active protection system, designed to intercept incoming rounds. A 1,500 horsepower engine pushes it to around 80 kilometers per hour. When it first rolled through Moscow, it was called the most advanced tank in the world. But it's expensive and complex, and only a small number have actually been built. Revolutionary on paper, still proving itself in reality.